There and welcome back to Celtic World Order podcast. As always, I'm Paddy Boy, and as you can see, I'm joined by Stephen again, so we can have a wee chat about the upcoming game against Dundee United. We'll also have a chat about returning players, new appointments at Celtic and the boardroom, a few other things to go over, but let's start off where we want to be at the end of next year. We want to hit 4,000 subscribers, guys. We're currently sitting about 3,570 odd or something like that, run about that kind of numbers. Send this out to all your pals. Get them in the door. Come on, you all go and support us buses. You all got pals that support Celtic. Get them involved. All you need to do is come in, hit the subscribe button. As we said before, guys, doesn't cost you a penny, but it helps us boost the numbers and gets a bigger reach to more of the Celtic family. As you can see, as I said, guys, I'm joined by Stephen here. I'll head across there. Stevie, how are you doing today, mate?
I'm doing fine. There's this big yellow burning ball in the sky that's kind of giving me the fear. I don't know where this has come from. This is Scotland that we live in. Georgie's got the same in Edinburgh. You know, as normal viewers, I'm normally sitting here with my Under Armour, my base layers and my hoodie, and I'm chittering. But yeah, good afternoon to everybody that's joining us on the channel. Hopefully we'll keep you entertained for the next hour. And yeah, get the comments and any questions that you want to get us to answer with our playful banter, shall we call it?
Yeah, that's it, mate. Talking about things that have happened right now, I don't know about you, mate. I want to kick this off with the Casper Schmeichel situation. For me, mate, this was one that it really got to me. Sitting watching the Champions League football and Casper Schmeichel's getting interviewed after his dad, right? I'll start off at the beginning. Why is Casper Schmeichel even there? He is still a Celtic player. He shouldn't be doing interviews on Champions League games that have got nothing to do with him and all of that. That for me was the first red flag, shall we say. But then his dad comes out in an interview with him and goes, well, yeah, you've had some issues, haven't you? You've got an announcement to make, haven't you? It's as if it was forced.
Yeah.
And his dad's kind of putting it across to him that this is your moment to tell it. You have to tell this now. And he comes out and basically says that he's had a career-threatening injury that he's been nursing for the last year and a bit, basically, and that it's all came to fruition now, and that's him out, basically, that he hopes to get back, but it doesn't look likely. And his dad's sitting there acting as if he was shocked about it. Clearly, it had been pre-rehearsed. Birthday card pish, as I'll say, mate. That's for me what it was. That should be coming from Celtic. That's something for me, mate, that should be getting released from Celtic and saying, listen, guys, you will be aware that Casper Schmeichel has been carrying an injury. There has been slight issues here and there. Casper's took a step aside. He's going to try and get the help that he needs in order to get back to full fitness. If this happens, excellent. If this doesn't, we would like to thank Casper for his time and blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
That's the avenues that should go down. What's your thoughts on this, mate, this pishy interview with his dad?
Yeah, as you say, I was very disappointed in the format that it took. As you say, Celtic are the club that currently pay Casper's wages.
Yeah.
It was no surprise to anybody that we knew Casper was carrying an injury, and I'm quite sure that's no big surprise to anybody within the club that worked with him on a daily basis. I think it was the severity of the injury that's maybe not been quite so clear from the offset. You know, he's kind of obviously tried to be playing through it for a good number of months, probably since before the cup final of last season. But yeah, I was disappointed. I would have suggested a kind of sit down interview with somebody from Celtic TV.
A shitey Jerry McCulloch one.
Yeah, whether it's Jerry McCulloch or whatever, but it's through the club's own media. And, Casper explains, look, I've been trying to play on as any outfield player would do. Every outfield player at some point tries to play through kind of niggly injuries and stuff like that. But being a goalkeeper, it's kind of you're the last line, if you know what I mean. So if you can't fulfil the role of a goalkeeper because you're trying to play with such a severe injury, it's going to become more obvious, and it's going to have bigger kind of impact on the team than somebody that's playing up front and just not scoring as regularly as possible, if you know what I mean. So I totally get why there's this kind of backlash to say, one, it looked pretty rehearsed on the Champions League thing. It's not the right outlet for me. Jeopardise the games for his own cause. Yeah, I can see why fans are saying that. He should have made it clear, even if he'd stepped out for a wee while. You look at the current situation with Callum. So Callum picks up a calf injury, sits out for a couple of weeks to try and rest that and get it back, and then he's back in the team. Now, who knows if something similar had happened with Casper? Give him some time off. He was getting injections and stuff. Try and let it heal. If it's not going to heal itself, if it was going to be something that required surgery to repair, then that's fine. But overall, it should have been handled through the club's own media, not by some random television channel, as you say, for a Champions League game that didn't even involve Celtic or a Scottish team. It kind of looked, as you say, very, very set up in advance, if you know what I mean.
Aye. No, for me, mate, it was, and I understand what the chat are saying there. I totally agree with Ryan when he's saying that he's jeopardised games for his own cause. For me, it was selfish, mate. Casper Schmeichel, we've said it before, he's one of these guys, he's a big personality, and he's one of these guys, he's experienced, he's one of the guys that you would look to. He's a leader. Mm-hmm. And if you've got a leader in there who is basically putting the team at risk, which, listen, he did on several occasions, in my opinion. By
Cup final being the perfect example.
Final, you just need to look at that. The one against Aberdeen and even the one against St Mirren as well.
Yeah.
The one against Aberdeen, they basically put all of the penalties to the left-hand side because he couldn't dive there, he couldn't get down, he couldn't put his hand out.
Even the equaliser, if Casper had managed to stop that, what was it, 8 minutes from time, if he'd managed to stop that shot. So yeah, I totally get where this kind of reaction is coming from all the fans. Totally.
Yeah, 100%, mate. And there was the one, I think it was against Kelly, when he dives out and he leads with his bottom hand. He's diving this way and he leads with that hand to try and get that up towards it. If he leads with that, he taps it over the crossbar. The ball ends up the back of the net. It puts you under so much pressure.
Yeah.
And that's something for me, mate, that I think, yes, I understand why he was wanting to try and get to the World Cup and he was wanting to make his way into the Denmark squad and whatever. Which, listen, that's the only squad that he mentioned in his interview. He didn't say anything about Celtic. Yeah. He didn't say, I want to get back for Celtic. I want to get back to do this for Celtic. He turned around and said, I want to get better for Denmark. And that, for me, again, showed that he doesn't really give a toss. He doesn't really know what it means to be at Celtic. And I've seen a thing there. I've seen the Lennoxtown thing where he was actually in training. Not training, but shouting instruction at Sinisalo and Duhan and whatever else. And I think that, listen, there's a role there for him.
Oh, absolutely.
We've already got somebody who does that. We've got Stevie Woods back in the building and he is doing that job. So for me, mate, it was a touch of selfishness and I just, I wish him all the best and I want to thank him for everything he's done, but I'm quite happy to see Viljami Sinisalo come in now and actually set a place for himself. Are you in that same kind of boat?
Yeah, I mean, as I say, I totally understand. That the points you've made are all very, very valid. That there has been a kind of a disregard for, as I say, it's Celtic who pays wages currently. So at least to have mentioned us in that conversation. But you've also touched on the point there of, I would imagine. If you were to interview Sinisalo just now and say, see the fact that you've worked with Casper over this period of time, and Stevie Woods as well, how much have you learned from the guy? Oh, absolutely. Somebody of that experience and this, that, the next thing. As I say, for me, it was the way it was handled, the announcement in the interview and stuff. It wasn't a good idea in my, because it was only going to be a backlash from then. Whereas, as I say, if he'd done it through the club's own media, I still think a lot of people would have been unhappy of the length of time that he's been allowed to play. And I use the word allowed to play because obviously Casper doesn't go in on a daily basis and put his name down on the team sheet. You know, there's got to be a wee bit of question mark over the manager and you know who's actually picking the team, knowing, as I say, that he's injured. Maybe not the severity of the injury, but you know, if Martin knew that he was injured and Martin was playing him, and managers before that, Brendan and Wilfred, if they knew he was carrying an injury but still chose him or selected him to play, then a wee bit of the burden should be on them. But anyway, you know, yes, as you say, we've got Sinisalo in. He's playing very well at the minute, and so therefore we just, you know, we put Casper to the side. We get to the end of the season purely focused on Sinisalo making that role his number one until you know whatever new manager comes in and makes his own decision after that.
That's it, mate, 100%. And on the manager as well, I sat and watched Martin Neill's interview. Supposed to be a pre-match interview, so I'm sitting there looking at it going, right, what are we going to find out? What has he learned about Dundee United? How are we going to set up going into this, whatever else? The first question straight off the mark were from Clyde One. Obviously they go in there and they start talking about Casper Schmeichel, as we have done this morning. They start talking about AJ, they start talking about Engles, and then they start talking about Callum McGregor. And when I said this to you as well, Stevie, you said you had seen the clip, and Martin Neill basically turned around and said he was going to change his role. He was going to be basically the medical officer rather than the manager, because all the questions he got in there were all about injuries and whatever else.
There's an episode at Holby City. I think he said in that interview it was 9.5 minutes. The first 9.5 minutes of his press conference was covering questions about various injuries to various players.
It's garbage. Listen, we do want to know obviously how players are doing and whatever else, but that's the thing with the media going into these things. And I know the collective have been trying to get fan media in and everything else. I think fan media give you a bit of a different edge in a situation like that. I think they ask the questions that we actually want to know the answers to, and not basically talking about guys who are back from injuries and this and that. And yes, we all want to know that, but again, that's something that should be getting released by the club. There should be some sort of weekly blog saying Alistair Johnston is getting this done and he's back in training and he's 50% fit and we're hoping to see him by this date, and Arnie Engles is at this point and he's, do you know what I mean? There should be something in there rather than getting all of this other garbage that comes out for Celtic. And I don't know about you, I downloaded the Celtic football app, and every day you get a notification with either a different wallpaper or something that's happening in the club or whatever else, but there's never any update on injuries. And this is something that I want to start seeing progressively going forward, is an update on injuries. Because you look at our squad, mate, it's absolutely littered with injured players who would make a massive difference to that club, to what we would do on the park. And that for me, mate, the Martin O'Neill interview was nothing. I learned absolutely nothing going into the game tomorrow, other than players that we aren't going to have. Do you know what I mean? It's no the way I want to see things. Other side of it, we'll have a wee look, right? Celtic have been doing a bit of recruitment. Right? We have brought in, now let me get his name right, Paul Mazoyer. He was the head of Heineken's business operation. He's been brought into Celtic as the head of business operations. Now that, for me, includes stadium tours, not stadium tours, tickets, all things to do with the stadium, hospitality, basically everything around Celtic as a business. Now, I see that as a good appointment because there's not been anyone in that role before. There hasn't been a position there. So they basically created a position for another one of the Glasgow Uni boys, who has apparently been doing an incredible job at Heineken. He's coming in and basically he'll be taken to do with everything around the business side of Celtic, whether that's the brand Celtic or like I said, to do with actual inside the stadium and what happens there. I'm not 100% sure. Will we be getting Heineken sold from the wee foyers when we go down and get our pies and stuff? I very much doubt it. But yeah,
what's your thoughts on plastic bottles?
Only in plastic cups or something. What's your thoughts on this appointment, mate?
I need to be. I'm going to try and be positive about it. I think really it's a kind of an attempt by the board to deflect a wee bit of attention away from footballing side of things, because as we all know, this is where most of the concerns have come from, not just this season. I mean, we've all kind of seen it over the last few years of things slipping in terms of how we're supporting the team overall. The appointment, yes, I mean, the guy comes with a proven track record in business.
Yes.
And so this, I think, is maybe just let me give you an example. Okay, so this year we obviously didn't qualify for the Champions League.
Yes.
So that's going to be a hit in our overall financials for the year. So now the business people on the board think, how can we increase our revenue stream to make up for the fact that we're not in the Champions League? Next year, even if we win the league, we don't go straight in. I think we need to play at least one qualifier. So again, if they don't get their business right in the summer, there's no guarantee that we'll be in the Champions League next year. So I think this is a case of them trying to add finance into the piggy bank that is Celtic as a business, or a pension pot for some of the board members, if you look at their ages and stuff like that. As I say, I do wish the guy well. I think there are certain things on the business side that do need looked at, that need improved, modernised. But for me, and I think for quite a lot of the supporters, I would say that we need team business dealt with as a higher priority than business at the moment. We've got money in the bank. It's not as if we're kind of struggling financially, as I say, although, as I say, I've mentioned the hit on this year's financials. But I think for any fan that's looking and saying, we need to sort out what's happening with the team before, we need to look at other avenues. We'll always make, or we'll always have income, because as you know, Celtic are a club loved and supported across the globe, not just in Scotland. So we will always have income of some sort. It's just how much. So as I say, for me, bit of a strange appointment, bit of a strange timing. I think we're coming up to season ticket time, are we not? For those that are due a renewal. So, I need to say, is it the right move at the right time? Not for me.
Yeah, I get that, mate. I understand it. Me and Steve done the video in at Celtic Park. Celtic Football Club, a unique fixer-upper opportunity. If you haven't seen it, guys, go have a watch of it. Basically, I walked around Celtic Park with Steve, and we highlighted all of the wee things that basically needed work outside the stadium. And it's all fine and well saying that you need to get things right inside the stadium, but you also need to have it outside the stadium, because at that time, I think we were hosting, I don't know, what Portuguese team did we play this year? Was it Benfica? I can't mind who it was. Whoever we were playing, basically, whoever was coming to Celtic Park. This was the day before that game. And you're walking in, and the car park sign is missing letters. The Celtic Way was just looking warm. You can't even see the bricks that people have paid for. You can't see the initialing on them or the writing on them or anything like that. The Billy McNeill statue, the big banner bit at the front of it that said the Celtic Way, used to be three-dimensional and actually lit up. It was just a shadow of itself. It was looking wrecked and whatever else. The bannering was all down. It was all sitting at the side of the stadium. There was stuff lying there for years ago, and the stuff, it just looked like an absolute shit tip. Yeah. It means people walked around there, and I was shocked. I was really, really shocked at it. And it was one of the things that kind of got to me, and I was like, how are we expected to get our shit together on the pitch when we can't even look after our own house, basically? And that was one of the things for me. So listen, if this guy has an appointment that's going to come in and he's going to look after the business side of things, he's going to look after the stadium side of things, he might be the guy that's going to get this kind of stuff all sorted. And I hope what it is, because when we can get all that together, the park will take care of itself. Our players and stuff will come in. We need footballing minds in there. We understand that. There's a lot of businessmen on that board. We need to get a football appointment in there soon as well. And that's something that I think will be coming. So that's my wee part on that.
Keep your fingers crossed,
Aye, another wee part that I want to get as well, mate, was I don't know if you've all seen this. Let me know in the chat if you have. The VAR audio has come out for the Celtic versus Hibs game. Now, I know you've seen this, Stevie, because it was in the chat. And basically, the VAR audio is from the corner where Liam Scales was being held. So Liam Scales is getting held by a Hibs defender. I don't know who it was. And the VAR audio says to the ref, hold the game just now. We've got a wee VAR check here. We're going to look at it. And the language here, mate, it says clear holding onto Liam Scales here. Yep, looks like a penalty to me. Can you show me it from the other angle? Shows him the other angle. Shows him everything else. Yep, lots there. Yep, looks like clear holding. The assistant VAR gets involved and says, yeah, no, not enough from me. And instantly the VAR guy says, no, yeah, you're right, that's it. So basically, mate, what I'm saying here is they went from clear holding to not enough in less than a minute. And Willie Collum has came out since then with his VAR review or whatever he does and said the decision should have been penalty. What's your thoughts on how this is running, man?
Well, not just on that individual one. If we take the whole VAR as a collective, you know, because every team have their decisions every season, even down in England, you know, I mean, they've had VAR for a lot longer than we have, and they still can't get it right. It's very subjective. If you have likes of Willie Collum, okay, he's looking at it with all his refereeing experience and he knows what he's looking for. If you've got somebody in the VAR control room who hasn't played the game at a professional level or hasn't, you know, been a qualified official, you know, referee or assistant referee or whatever, it's very much your perspective on what you're looking at, whether you think that's a foul or not. You can have the VAR talking to each other, this, that, and the next thing, but surely the decision is whether you just allow the referee to go and look at it because you think he's missed something. It's not for you to bandy backwards and forwards in your wee control room to say, well, I think that's a penalty because there's contact there. Oh, well, I see it from a different perspective. I don't think there's enough contact. It's either a yes or a no. It's not how much contact. This is the thing that gets everybody about VAR. A lot of the decisions are very, very subjective. You know, you've seen the ones for the offside decisions. Where do you draw the lines? What part of the body is it that you're taking? You know, all these things. It's just a case of if you're sitting in the VAR control room and you think that the referee has either missed something. Now, I say missed something, not whether he's made a decision on the part, but you don't agree with that decision. That comes back to the subjective part. But if you think he has missed something, then you turn around and you say, I think you should come and look at that again. If the referee says, no, I've now seen it with the assistance of monitors and slowed down play, and I'm going to stick to my decision, fair enough. The referee has made the decision. VAR is not there to referee a game. And they're not there to say, oh, I think this and I think that. They're looking at something that the referee doesn't have. They've got different camera angles. They can speed it up. They can slow it down, whatever. But this subjective decision making is not for VAR to do. As I say, VAR, put it back to the referee and say, I want to draw your attention to something. Have a look and see what you, as the match official, what do you think? And then leave it up to him. Take the John Beaton one from last week with the penalty with Dyson. Now, he had a very, very clear view of that. He was going to let play continue. A corner to Motherwell. VAR come back and said, we think you've made a mistake there. Going to have a look at that. By the time he looked at it, as much as he tried to argue, I don't want to look at it. By the time he looked at it, you know, by that point, right, okay, I can see what I have missed, therefore he changes it. But yeah, as I say, VAR are not there to referee games, And it certainly, as I say, when you're listening to the audio from the clip that you mentioned, where two guys in the same control room have a different opinion on that, no, that for me is not what VAR is there for, and it's not what what we should be looking, or it's not going to get any better in that respect. As I say, all it is a case of, I've looked at that. I think the referee should have a look at that with the assistance of the pitch side monitor, and then leave it to the referee.
Yeah, that's it, mate. And like you said, if there's two people in the VAR control room who disagree with each other, then surely the logical option is to then let the referee see it and have that third eye in there and let him make the decision. That's it. Like me and you could watch the same thing, and I'll go, "Oh, that's a Stonewall penalty." You go, "No, it's no," and then we'll give Steve-O the deciding vote. As he's the main man.
As you say, it's. We can both agree that there's contact between Liam Scales and the defender, but it's the how much contact. That's the subjective part, and that's where you need somebody, as I say, somebody who's the referee for the day. It's down to you. You're the referee. You decide. You know the laws of the game better than the guy sitting in the VAR control, or certainly some of the guys sitting in the VAR control room. So it's your decision. We're giving you these extra camera angles to try and assist you in your decision-making process. But it's your decision at the end of the day, not what I think as, VAR or assistant VAR or whatever.
That's it. And at the end of the day, VAR was brought in for clear and obvious errors. Now, if that's then seen as a clear and obvious error, it has to be looked at and it has to be checked. And I don't think VAR has done its job. So what we'll then see is a couple of referees getting their arse scalped, getting to referee some Division 1 matches, possibly missing out on a couple of big games, whatever else. Nothing to them, because basically this isn't their full-time jobs, is it? They do this as a kind of part-time role. So, yeah, it's one of the ones, mate. We miss out on a very important penalty, which could have got us a result in that game. And potentially could have had us sitting top of the league at this point in time. So it's not as if it was just a silly little decision. It's one of these ones, mate, that it's happening far too often. And I understand what you're saying. It comes down to perception, and everybody's going to have a different perception. Everybody's going to have that different view of things. You said about John Beaton going over to look at the incident the other day with Dyson Maida. He had to take off his blue glasses in order to look at it and say, yes, I was wrong. And that's, I think, once the referee goes to that monitor, that sort of pressure is there where he has to think back to the rule book and he has to think back to what is he going to be held accountable for here. And I think if it does go to the monitor 9 times out of 10, you do see the penalty given because they feel like someone has pointed this out to them because they agree with the idea of a penalty, essentially.
See, to be honest, I would be quite happy if, for one of these decisions, we don't see very many, a referee goes to the monitor and says, right, okay, I'm seeing, again, with the benefit of different angles, I can see what you're showing me, but I'm actually going to stick to my decision because I think down to the rules of the game, then, and just explain it and say, no, on this occasion, yes, I can see what you're showing me, but I'm going to stick to my decision. If they think that's the right decision, that's fine. But then, as I say, it's purely down to them and the rules. It's not, as I say, the guys in the control room having a wee tit for tat argument to say, how blue is his boots rather than are they light blue, are they dark blue, or they, that's a nonsense. That's got nothing to do with anything.
I know, and that's it. If we're going to have VAR coming in and re-refereeing games like Martin Neill said in previous interviews, then we need to get a better version of VAR. We need to get it essentially like it was in the World Cup. When it was simply like AI. If you were offside, it showed you were offside. Now, I think that's something as well that you really need to look at, right? If your hand's offside, doesn't matter. Right?
It's going to come down to money on that.
As it's going to come down to brass tacks, mate, at the end of the day. And if it's going to happen in the SPFL, it's going to come down to Celtic, Rangers, and a couple of other kind of bigger teams, essentially, putting their hand in their pocket. And as far as I can see, mate, we're not willing to do that for the rest of the league. So we're going to be stuck with a Aldi version or Lidl version, or whatever you want to call it, Temu version. We're going to be stuck with this version, basically, of VAR, which cuts off goals that are perfectly fine. Players are offside when they're not, and everything else. But what gets me, mate, is the refereeing part of it, and when referees get involved and get it wrong, basically, as they have on this occasion.
Even before VAR, there was obviously the chat about Scottish refereeing, and every team manager said that all we are looking for is consistency. If this is an offence, then we want to make sure that everybody knows that moving forward. I think I was reading a thing on, so there's going to be some sort of referees conference getting held to discuss how is it they describe it, the kind of the denying of a goal scoring opportunity. How again we've seen this season that some are being applied and some aren't, where some it's a yellow card, some it's a red card, others they're just getting away with it. So again, all we're looking for is consistency, and then at least moving forward.
Yeah, that's it, mate. Consistency is the main word that you put in there. A few of the guys put in the chat there as well. McLaughlin saying about we were supposed to be having a VAR camera every 18 yards up the lines, basically. Saying just now we're getting pictures for Wishaw when the game's at Motherwell and stuff like that. I mean, I totally get that, mate. You're spot on.
Well, what was it, the Jota one from last season, where they had the camera angle from the opposite end of the pitch, and you're trying to draw blue lines with that. I mean, that's just ludicrous. And one of our cameras wasn't working. Well, that's not the player's fault. So surely, if the system that you've got in place isn't fit for purpose, you've got to say, okay, we can't deliberately, or we can't definitively prove that he's offside because of the angle we're looking at it. Nonsense.
That's it, mate. And even the linesman didn't have his flag up that day as well, which it just shows you that was honestly, that'd have been goal of the season. That was an absolute cracker. And the way Jota took it and the way he finished it as well. And he's a player that I can't wait to get back. So, listen, on to today. There's some big games today as well. They might not be Celtic games, but as this season is panning out, it's games that directly affect us. Normally, I wouldn't sit and watch a Hearts game, or I say I wouldn't watch a Rangers game. If Rangers are playing on a telly, I'll watch it until they maybe score, then I'll turn it off. But listen, big games today. Hearts kick off against Dundee. We've got Motherwell against Hibs. They're both the 3 o'clock kickoffs. Hearts against Dundee, mate. Hearts at home. A couple of wee boosts with certain players coming back and whatever else. But listen, Dundee are no mugs. Dundee know how to defend. Big Elvis has got them playing good football. He might be as boring as they come when he's doing his interviews, but he comes across well when he's in that dressing room, because they guys have been getting results here, there and everywhere. I hope for McLaughlin's sake, he says he's got Dundee in his coupon, mate. I hope to God Dundee do you and does a wee favour there, mate. I hope we get something out of that. So, what are you thinking today? Can Dundee cause a wee upset for us? Can they take a wee point or something off of Hearts?
I think it's always a possibility. But I would think Hearts being at home, depending on whether they've got Shankland and Cammy Devlin back, whether the two of them will start, I don't know. But I think today, being at home, I think Hearts will just be a wee bit too strong for them. I would like, if it's a scrappy game and it's a draw, brilliant, that'll do for me. But I think if I'm thinking with my unbiased football supporter brain on, I would say if I had to put that on a coupon, I would be going for a home win on that one. Maybe not by a few goals. I know the last game at Tynecastle was 4-0 Hearts, but that's when Hearts were really kind of flying, and they've kind of dropped a wee bit. There's a wee bit more pressure on them now as the gap has closed over the last couple of weeks. So I can only hope that they have a performance like they had last week. They didn't look at all comfortable in the Kilmarnock game. If that turns out to be a draw, then absolutely bang on for us.
Yeah, I seen a thing as well, and I think it was Derek McInnes who was getting interviewed. I'm sure if you've seen the interview and you're in the chat there, you let us know. But I'm sure they interviewed Derek McInnes, and it was after the Celtic obviously played on the Saturday, and then Hearts played Killie on the Sunday. Obviously, then Hearts go on to drop points, and they'd asked basically was it that extra pressure from Celtic, obviously doing their bit and winning their game that put the pressure on you, and he turned around and he said yes. Which I was quite surprised about. I thought he would have turned around and gave it the whole, no, we'll concentrate on us. It was a slip up. It was my bad, whatever, blah, blah, blah. He's basically turned around and went, yeah, we felt the pressure from Celtic there. And I think that's the case now. They are starting to get to this stage of the season, and I've said it on here countless amounts of times. This is where champions come alive. This is where the big players in your squad get a grip of the games and bring other players into it. And I think that Hearts will start to feel that. They'll start to feel that pressure every single week. We're only 2 points off of them, Stevie. That's one win. So if Hearts drop points today and we scud Dundee United tomorrow, that's us joint top of the league with them. The Baddies are away tonight. They're at home tonight, aren't they?
They're at home.
They're at home tonight against Aberdeen. I did try and get young Beth Wallace on again, the young Aberdeen fan who I had on before the Celtic Aberdeen game, but
that was good chat.
She's a cracking lassie. She was at an event for the release of the Ultras programme that's coming out on BBC iPlayer. She was at an event for that, and obviously she'll be busy on her radio programmes and whatever today. But I'd have been interested to get her thoughts, obviously going into this game against Aberdeen tonight, which I believe is a later kick-off. Steve, is it 17:45? You say so?
Quarter to 6. So I suspect it's going to be live on one of the telly channels. I haven't checked which one.
I think that one will be on Sky. So we'll maybe give that a wee watch, and hopefully Aberdeen can do us a wee favour there and knock the Baddies.
New manager bounce, do you think?
Well, that's it. Robinson's come in from St Mirren. A guy who I was very surprised for him to actually jump ship the way he did. I know St Mirren have been on a bit of a downward spiral, but basically by beating us in the cup, he got the key to the city. It was the big guy arm there. He had done a good enough job, I thought, to obviously keep going. I don't think he would have lost his job come the end of the season. So for me, that's a jump where him showing a bit of ambition, seeing Aberdeen as the bigger club and seeing that more potential to actually progress his career. So listen, fair play to the guy. I'm hoping that he goes in there. You know what it was like, mate, us going to play against teams like St Mirren. St Mirren were always very, very well drilled. They were very well set up. Hard to break down, mate. It almost seemed like sometimes they had 2 banks of 5 sitting in there because everybody knew their job. They were coming back into those positions. That's something that I think if you do that against Rangers, you're going to cause them a lot of problems because they are very similar to us where they need teams to go and attack them. They need teams to come out and show that bit of aggression towards us so that we can find the gaps. Now, I think a very well-drilled Aberdeen side under Stephen Robinson could potentially cause a wee upset there as well. What do you think of that?
Out of the 2 games that we've mentioned happening today, I could see Aberdeen certainly getting a draw more than I would say Dundee would get a draw. I think he will be very pragmatic in his setup. If we can get Beth on tomorrow, if she's available, if we're going to do a show after tomorrow's game, it'll be very interesting to see. It was the timing for me again, because obviously the talk when you were on with Beth on your chat, which I say was very good. You know, at that point they're looking at foreign managers and this, that, and the next, and then suddenly the time, out of nobody saw it coming. It was like straight in. The kind of rumour broke on day 1. By day 2, Stephen Robinson's already signed the contract. So I think it's a case of Aberdeen were kind of looking at the position they were in. I think if they'd held off that wee bit longer, there was the fear that they were going to get dragged into that relegation battle, which they absolutely didn't want to be in. So I think that's why they said, look, we go for a guy who we know can handle playing in the Scottish League. And I think this is very pertinent to us as well as to what happens at the end of the season. And that's the thing. So, Stephen Robinson came in, got a good performance from his team last week. And I think hopefully again, he sees Aberdeen maybe with a wee bit more money to spend than St Mirren over the longer period. He thinks he can maybe, do a better, or he'll have more kind of freedom in the transfer market or whatever. But yes, as you say, he sets his teams up very well, as we found out in the cup final. So it will be interesting to see, taking them to Ibrox, how they set up. I don't think they will be chasing that game. I think it's kind of Stephen Robinson's priority at the minute will be getting points on the board. So if he goes to Ibrox and gets a draw, that's it'll be like it'll be party time up at Pittodrie. The fact that they've gone to Ibrox, come away with a point. Now remember, a lot of Rangers fans say that Aberdeen only really up their game twice a year or 4 times a year because they come and they seem to play so much better against us than any other team in the league. Well, hopefully that comes to pass today. So, absolutely, would absolutely love it. A wee draw there, or a sneaky 1-0 Aberdeen, Jack Butland error to put the ball in the back of his own net. That would be ideal scenario.
Aye, that would be lovely, mate. I'll be an Aberdeen fan for the day. All my wee Aberdonian friends will be quite chuffed about that. Stand free and all that, guys. There you go.
Absolutely.
So there you go, guys. You heard it here first. We Dundee and Aberdeen double. Get it on. That's the feature for the day. Let's see how that does.
Just use your free bet. See if anybody says that they lost their mortgage on the tips that we've been giving them. Then the disclaimer is just free bets only, guys.
Yeah, that's it, mate. The Motherwell Hibs game again. I don't really see Motherwell being a threat anymore. I think that's all kind of died away. I think it's down to a 3-horse race now.
I don't think they will win the league. I think there's too many points of a gap now. But I can definitely see the way that Motherwell are playing. I think there will still be twists and turns. I think they'll still pick up points off the teams above them.
I think they'll take points off either ourselves, Hearts and Rangers. I think they've still got a say in the title race, but I don't think they are anywhere near the title race. Was what I was trying to
don't. No, if they between now and the end of the season, if they win the league, then it'll be impressive stuff.
Aye, as they have been. Listen, they've been very, very impressive throughout the season. I think their manager, again, is one whose name keeps popping up. You mentioned, obviously, come the end of the season, we will be looking at possibly bringing in a manager who's worked in the Scottish League. I know Roberto Martinez's name's out there. I know there's a few other names kicking about. But, again, you look in the league that you're in at the minute and managers who are doing well. I wouldn't be surprised at all if the Motherwell manager wins Manager of the Year.
Yeah.
So... Again,
I think it'll probably be down to him or John McGlynn.
Yeah, that's it. Listen, I'd love to see John McGlynn as well. John's a fantastic man, great manager. He's done incredible things at Falkirk. The youth set up at Falkirk as well. As I've said before, my mate's young son, Ryan Hartley, he's playing at Falkirk, one to keep an eye on. He's an outstanding young talent, and he's one to keep an eye on for the future. And that's all down to the way Falkirk's academy and everything's running. And McGlynn takes pride in that. He takes to do with it, which is something you don't see at a lot of the SPFL teams as well. So, again, something that we've got to contend with essentially from other teams. However, let's get down to it. 2 points off the top at the minute.
Who'd have thunk it?
Yeah, exactly. Who would have said it? Coming into this stage of the season, see if we get into the top, the bracket, the six. The 6 games, if we can get into the split, pretty much even as we are at the minute, brilliant. That to me was the goal kind of when we were sitting slightly further off, and I'm looking at it now and going, right, that's kind of where we are at. If Hearts drop points today and we win against Dundee United, we go top. We go joint top, and that's something that I'm looking forward to it, mate. It's people have been saying to me, "Oh, this is the most exciting season. This is how it should be, and whatever else." Nah, I want to win the league by 20 points. I want to batter everybody, mate. I'm quite happy to be out there ahead of everybody and be celebrating by this time of the season. It is exciting. It's good for Scottish football. It's getting more eyes on Scottish football. I understand that, but I still really want Celtic to get it over the line. Going into the game against Dundee United, Stevie, we spoke a wee bit before we come on. Form coming into the game, right? Let's just talk about the last 5 games. So last 5 games, Dundee United have lost 2, drew 2, and 1 win. Their last win was against St Mirren and are currently sitting 7th in the league. So you're coming up against a team like that, mate. Away from home. Don't talk about their grass or their whatever else at the minute. A team currently sitting 7th in the league with that kind of form coming into the game. How are you looking at it?
I'm confident. I don't think from our own forum perspective, I don't think we've got any right to expect that we will go there and just turn up and win the game. I think we'll have to work hard for it because, again, I think, as you mentioned, with Dundee and Aberdeen both being kind of pragmatic, I think they'll kind of set up to try and be exactly the same, make us break them down. And, our strikers aren't on fire at the minute. None of them are. But we are finding goals now. So, I would be completely confident in saying that I expect us to go there and win. I'm not saying it's going to be an easy game, but you would look at the current momentum. I think both Dundee and Dundee United, the number of goals they've conceded up to this point in the season, I think probably only Kilmarnock and Livingston, if I'm right, have conceded more. So I think there will be opportunities for us to score. And, as I say, I'll be quite happy to take a 1-0 win and back down the road because, as the tagline says, this is where, our experience of coming into the last few weeks of a season and grinding out results, where other teams' Hearts have done fantastically well this season to be where they are. Absolutely. Motherwell are where they are because they've been playing fantastic football. We're where we are because of Martin and the fact that he's managed to get results from a team where, we're missing at least 6 what you would class as first team starters.
Yes.
Those who have come in have raised their game because of Martin. And, we are digging up results where in previous seasons, as you say, we would love it to be like this every season where we're winning, but we're winning because we're the strongest.
Yeah.
And okay, other teams are doing their best to catch us up. But this year we can't claim to be the strongest or the best, but we are still in the fight because we've got guys in the team, Cal Mack, Jamesy, even Casper, as we talked about, his experience of coming into the last few weeks of a season and knowing the pressure that's on them. Nobody at Hearts knows that pressure, even Derek McInnes. So this is where our being able to handle the pressure better than the teams round about us will also, play its part as we get less and less games every week towards the split, and then into the last 6 after that. So got to be confident going away from home to say I think we are the better team purely on paper and current form. As I say, I don't think we've reached the stage yet where we say, Yang seems to be the guy that's on fire at the minute after his performance last week. Go to Yang gang. Negrin, I think will get on the score sheet tomorrow. Would I say any of the strikers are likely to score? I would love to see it, but I wouldn't be even putting my free sky bet on that one. I think the goals will come from elsewhere in the park. But yeah, I'm thinking 3 points for tomorrow, purely based on the momentum that we've built up over the last few weeks.
That's it, mate. And you use that word momentum, and that's something that I want to touch on, because like you've said there as well, this is the time when champions strike. It's coming to the latter stages, and this is where our players who have been there, serial winners. You look across the city at the baddies, there are no serial winners in their team.
Nope.
There are a lot of losers. There's a lot of people in there who have never seen silverware. A lot of people who have won maybe one cup in 15 years or whatever. There's a lot of people in there, mate, who have seen this Celtic dominance and who will understand that this is where teams like Celtic kick on. So you look at our squad, mate, and guys in there, listen, your Callum McGregor's, he's still in the training ground, even though he hasn't been playing in the last few games. He's been nursing that little injury. But again, he's training hard and he will be back in there.
Yeah.
Every time you watch these wee interviews that they do with players, I think the last one was Sinisalo, obviously, because he's now broke into the squad, and he says to him, who is the best in training? And every single one of them always say Callum McGregor. And I love that, mate, because that's what you strive to look to. You look to your captain and you go, look what he's doing. He is a champion. He's won 10 out of the last 11 trophies. Do you know what I mean? He's an absolute stalwart when it comes to this part of the game, and he understands what it gets. So then that's what they need to do, and they understand that that's what they have to do to push forward. And I think we've got a lot of players like that in our squad. So when it's coming down to the latter stages of the season, we've got the momentum, we've got the players who understand what it's going to take to get things like this across the line. And that's it, mate. That for me is the main word in there, and you had it right in the head, is momentum. Yeah. We have that momentum. If you ask the Hearts fans, Rangers fans at this moment in time, who's got the momentum? Who do you think is going to push on? I think if they're going to be honest with ourselves, mate, it's going to be us. Yeah. Isn't it?
Yeah, so, I mean, I think that looking at a stat there just before I come on, and since Martin and Neill took over, I think was it November, he's played 10 league games, he's won 6, he's drawn 2, and he's lost 2. And over those 10 games, Celtic have accumulated the most away points. I think it was 20 points out of those games. So, yeah, okay, you can look at your home form and say, as we always do, we want Celtic Park to be an absolute fortress. The home games will take care of ourselves. But champions also go away and pick up. As I say, this season, we're always happy with just winning a game by 1 goal. Previous seasons where we've had we're star players and we're quality and we're absolute. All we're starting 11 are available to us and fit and firing. That's when you're kind of winning games or winning leagues by this point in the season, saying right, that's fine. But we don't ever take our foot off the gas after that. So yeah, this season it's definitely a kind of more of a battle for us this year because of everything and. It's all happened within our club. It's not down to anybody else. We know exactly where we're pointing the finger come the end of the season, however it's going to finish. There's going to be fingers pointed towards that board and say, you've made so many bad decisions over the last not even 12 months, going back further than that. But, we have been, in some respects, the architects of our own downfall. Yeah. And therefore, having still got to this stage of the season within touching distance of again being top of the league, as you say, depending on how results go over this weekend or even next weekend, but we're still there. We're still that close. Everything's still in our own hands. And because of, as I say, the points on the board scenario, as I say, we can look today, see what happens. As long as we're no worse off, which we obviously can't be, if Hearts win and Rangers win, that's fine. We just know we need to go and do business tomorrow. But we knew that anyway. So, that's the thing. We need to ride out this title run. And as I say, the tagline on today's show, Martin absolutely been in this position before. He knows what it's going to take. passing that on to the guys on the park, and I'm talking about the guys who have only been with us this season, or even those who have just been with us since the January window. It's getting that belief in saying, just go out, do what you've got to do, win the game. If we win the game by 1 goal or we win the game by 9 goals, still that 3 points. There's no difference there. But we definitely do take care of our own business, and then more under pressure. Yeah, Dan the man is back. We've missed you, Dan. We were having a wee conflab about you on the chat just after last week's, and good to see you back on the chat. But yeah, I mean, under pressure, that's definitely the case of being in a kind of good way, because I think it's been a wake-up call this season, and this is where I go back to my conversation earlier about the board and the makeup of the board and what we need to do moving through the summer. But yeah, as I say, in regards to tomorrow's game, go there, do the job, get the 3 points, back down the road, depending on missing you as well, Dan. And yeah, everybody who's commenting now, absolutely loving it. If there is I don't even think there is a downside, because I say, the kind of 2 games today, we can't influence them in any way. We would love it if either Hearts or Rangers dropped points, absolutely. But overall, the focus is on tomorrow. Go to Tannadice. They concede a lot of goals. Win the game. I don't care by how many. Just win the game. Get the 3 points. Move that stage further. Increase that pressure on the other teams just that wee bit more, and ramp it up, and then see who's first to break.
Yeah, that's it, mate. And listen, we'll kind of touch on their stadium and their park at the minute. United's park's always been one that's caused a wee bit of controversy. And I seen somebody put in the chat, I don't know who it was, I'm sure they'll tell us. Somebody says we should be covering their park in baby oil because it's just pretty much a sand pit at the minute. Yeah. Get a bit of moisture into that ground up there. It is one of these parts where you do go to, and sometimes you can struggle a little bit. So tomorrow for me, mate, it's all about getting the 3 points. It's all about just going there. I'm not really caring how we get it across the line, who scores the goals, like he says. If one of the strikers gets on the end of it, brilliant. Coming into this game, mate, we spoke about Dundee's form coming into it. I'll talk slightly about Celtic's, right? Last 5 games, 4 wins, 1 draw. The draw was against the Baddies, 0-0, right? So for me, mate, we're the team coming into this with a form. Yep. We are the team with more to win. Basically, we've got more in this game than what United have. So I'm quite happy that Celtic going into this game have got the right mentality. And again, they've got the momentum to push forward and to get that result across the line. Again, I don't really care how it comes about, but as long as it comes about. You also spoke about Celtic Park, mate, becoming a fortress, or being the fortress that it once was. I want to quickly comment on that. There have been several conversations between the collective and Celtic with regards to the Green Brigade getting back into Celtic Park. Now, there have been measures put in place by either Celtic or the safety officers, or whatever you want to call them, in order to get this action to take place. But the Green Brigade don't agree with what Celtic and the other safety officers are asking, so there have been slight hold-ups there. If you do follow the Celtic collective, you'll find everything on there. They've put out a statement basically stipulating what their thoughts are going forward and what they expect. There is communication ongoing, which again is good. All communication is good, because we know Celtic are not good at communicating. They're not good at telling us our players are injured. They're not good at telling us basically anything that's happening in the club. So if you want to know anything about it, follow the collective on their Instagram, on their X, on pretty much every channel that they've got out there, and they're pretty quick to get the statements out. The statement is there if you want to go read it and get involved. So yes, we will make Celtic Park the fortress that it is, but this time we're playing away to Dundee United. Let's talk about on the sandpit. So let's talk about the team going into it. I'm going to go out there straight away. Casper Schmeichel will not start. Put your mortgage on it. Casper Schmeichel will not be the starting goalkeeper, right? Vijay Sinisalo, obviously, mate, is going to be the main goalkeeper in there. Defensively wise, I think Austin Trustys is still banned. So again, we're probably going to hit Dane Murray, Liam Scales coming in, or your man Arthur, who I thought has been very, very consistent, very good, played really well against the baddies and stuff like that. So possibly, I think you would start with Arthur. What do you think? Are you going for Arthur? Araujo, I think, might still be on mat leave. I'm not sure if Araujo.
Well, I did read just on the Araujo thing. I did read somebody. It was actually a bit of a quad injury that he'd picked up. Okay. So it was sore rather than a tear. Again, as you say, you're relying on kind of this coming through. Fan rumours and social media rather than anything official from the club itself. Are you sure that Trusty is still banned for this one?
I think he is, mate. I don't think he's due back yet.
No.
Next game.
Okay, so let's assume that he is.
I'm sure you let me know in the chat if he is.
I would be quite happy. I would be quite happy for the lad Arthur. Now, bearing in mind, obviously, Arthur got his chance because Dane Murray pulled up in the warm up. So again, we haven't heard what the nature of that injury was, whether it's just a niggle or whether it's something a wee bit more kind of long term, or not long term, if you know what I mean. But it might keep him out of tomorrow's game. I'll go on record and I'll say I would be quite happy with the boy Arthur starting. I think he's done very well the 2 games that he's played the full 90 minutes. He's been quietly composed, and I think the more minutes, I think you'll start to see a wee bit more of his quality. On regards, I'm going to go out on a limb here and say right back tomorrow, I think you might see Tony Ralston starting in there.
Yeah.
Because again, Colby picked up a wee niggle just at the end of the last game, and obviously Tony came on. So I think you might see Ralston starting right back tomorrow, and KT, if he's fit, starts at left back. If he thinks he's fit enough, again, I know he had a wee kind of niggle. But I think if he's fit, he showed the kind of the impact that he's going to have. He's going to play until he tells you. Hopefully he's going to be a wee bit more honest than Casper, or somebody's going to pick up on it. That if he turns around and says, "No, listen, I think a game where at least I'm available on the bench, but maybe not starting," then Sirachi comes in for me. Rather than moving Liam to left back again. I did have the fear on that one, which proved to be unfounded, to be fair. But yeah, so I think back 4 for me, Ralston right back, Arthur and Scales in the middle if Austin's not available, and then KT at the back. But if KT's not, then Sirachi at left back for me.
Sound right. Let's have a wee look at the middle of the park then. Obviously, I think Callum McGregor, it might be a bit too soon for him to come in there. So I think then we see possibly Rio Hatate starting in there. Obviously, Benji Negrin being a top goal scorer starts in there. Is the other one for you going to be Bernardo or Luke McCowan?
No, I think it's probably going to be the Ox again. I think he will start.
Yeah, I don't think he will. I think against Rangers, mate, if I'm being honest, I think he found his level. I think he was found out a little bit. I think he showed that he didn't really have that passion, that desire, that wee bit between his teeth. Now, this might be a game that would be well suited to somebody like the Ox, but I just feel like somebody like Luke McCowan or Bernardo, somebody who's been there. would get the nod over him. So you disagree? You think the Ox will start in there?
No, well, not that I disagree, but I think again, he's done well. But bearing in mind how long that he hadn't been playing for, and then again, I think all that's missing. He's certainly physically fit enough to play in these matches. It's getting his match fitness up, and the only way that he's going to get his match fitness up is by playing more minutes. I suspect if Callum is reasonably fit, you might see him on the bench tomorrow. Again, just as a case of, I'm there if you need me, but I'm not going to start the game. If we manage to get a foothold in the game, we get ourselves a goal or two ahead early doors, then there's no need to risk him. But I think, Callum, if he's been training this week, purely for a captain's point of view, he'll say, listen, I'm going to be available, be on the bench should you need me, depending on how the game goes. But I think Ox, as I say, the more match minutes he gets, then you're going to see Martin might decide to, do his usual and swap players out just to freshen things up. So you might go totally left field and bring. I wouldn't be unhappy to see Bernardo in there again. I think he's lacked match minutes this season, so that's the only thing that kind of goes against him for me. Luke McCowan has been playing a wee bit more regularly, fits and starts, but they should all be capable of going in there and doing a job in the middle of the park against maybe a midfield that aren't quite the same quality as Rangers, as you mentioned.
Yeah, that's it. And listen, there's a lot of love in there for Oxlade-Chamberlain as well. Porkchop Express is saying, give him a break. The guy's only played a few games in 2 years. I get that. Listen, I'm not jumping on the guy's back. I expect more from him. He's a high-quality player. He's a Champions League winner. He's one of these guys who I'd expect to come in there and dominate the midfield. I haven't quite seen that sort of performance from him. Yeah.
I think if you were to ask him himself, again, this is something that maybe fan media, if we were the chance to ask players and say, looking at Scottish football from the outset, how would you have described it? But now that you've played in it, has your perspective changed as to how fast the game is, how physical the game is compared to when you're watching it on the telly? It'd be interesting to hear what his kind of answer. I always wish I could have asked the likes of Scott Sinclair, that sort of, guys who came in with this perceived notion of Scottish football. Joey Barton.
I was just about to say,
a great one. Listen, you came into Scottish football and you absolutely dragged it down, but then you really showed yourself up, and Scott Brown ran over the top of you. So it'd be interesting to ask Ox and say, now that you've played in these games, how would you now then describe to your fellow professionals how the reality of Scottish football is compared to just when you're watching it on the telly?
Aye, that's it. Listen, and Gav's in there as well. Gav says the Ox had a different game against Rangers the second time. It was a lot sharper, a lot better. Had a better grasp of the levels required. And I think if a player's coming into a game like that, you have to understand the levels. Like at Celtic, you can't afford to lose any game. It doesn't matter who you're playing, especially a Celtic Rangers game, especially a derby. Every game from now until the end of the season is a cup final. Yeah. It's one of these ones where we have to win every single game. We can't be relying on Hibs to do us a favour here and there, or Hearts to drop points, or Aberdeen to beat Rangers. We need to take care of your own business. Yeah, and that's what we're looking for, mate. At the top, then for Celtic, who are we going to have? Mr. Yang for me has to be the first name on that team sheet. As much as that will gut our Steve-O, the Yang gang is well and truly up and running. I will get the t-shirts sorted. We will be out there. I think Big Tam, I don't know. Do you start him up top? Do you give him the opportunity against a Dundee United team who will probably be sitting back? Do you put Dyson in there on the left, or do you start Tinecki on the left? Where are you?
So the divisive figure in there is Tinecki. When Tinecki starts games, I don't think, certainly in the last few weeks, his impact is more when he comes off the bench during a game. He's going up against guys who are maybe 60 minutes and are not at the same energy levels. He comes onto a park when he's fresh and he has more of an impact against guys. So I think that you're likely to see Dyson start on the left tomorrow. Yang, yes, absolutely. His current run of form keeps him in that team. Whether he can maintain that level of form, that's where we've kind of seen, kind of ups and downs, like a wee roller coaster this season. Not just with his form, we talked about Rio and stuff like that over the course and other players as well. So yes, for me, Yang starts on the right, Maeda on the left. Big Rab, yeah, I mean, I can get that, the pressing. I think it'll be a different setup defensively from Dundee United tomorrow, in that with Dyson running from the left, he can create a wee bit more for whether it's going to be Kvanchara or whether it's going to be Adamu. Again, Adamu maybe that bit faster. I put a comment on last week's game when Big Tam came on and said we need to change his surname to Concrete Boots, because it looks as if he's kind of running, he's got one speed all the time. Yeah, I think it's going to be interesting to see who starts up front. I do understand the kind of the Dyson press, that he out of the whole squad is the guy who gets the need to press right up on defenders and make them make mistakes, as we saw the first Jan goal last week. So absolutely, it's going to be interesting to see what the lineup. But for me, Yang, Maeda on the left, and either or Big Tam, Adamu. We could even, totally out the nether sphere, even see Iheanacho start the game. Yeah. Whether Martin goes with that, I don't know. I would suspect he'll probably go with either Kvanchara or Adamu, but who knows? As I say, this is Martin we're talking about. Martin will make his own decisions, and may he be forever blessed, exactly. if he gets it right.
Yeah, that's it, mate. I think he'll go Teneki, Maeda and Yang. I think it'll be an all-out speed fest, basically. I think they'll try and catch him out that way.
Sure.
Yeah. So let's put our necks on the line. It's that time of the day where we put out our predictions. So get them into the chat, and we'll go to you first, Stevie, before I bring MD else in. What do you reckon the prediction is tomorrow?
I am going to say a nervy but comfortable 2-0 at the end of the day. I'll be more than happy with that. I don't know. I would like to think defensively we're a bit tighter now than we have been. I mean, obviously the last time we went to Tannadice in December, we lost 2-1, but I think we've certainly tightened up since then. Michael agrees with me, 2-0. A goal each half, then that would be absolutely fine. Anything more than that, chill pill, 3-4s will absolutely do our goal difference the world of good. So yeah, I'm going for a 2-0. What about yourself, Paddy?
I am not as confident as our Willie. Willie's coming in with a 5-0. I would absolutely love that, Willie. That would be fantastic for our goal difference. That would be one of these ones where we will lay down a marker at this stage of the season.
Are we talking Yang to get all 5 of those?
Well, Dan's already put Yang down for a hat-trick, so we'll hope for something like that. That would be absolutely fantastic if something like that kind of came about. I'm going to remain not sceptical. I think 3-1. Okay. I think it's going to be something like that. I love this for Georgie boy there. That's cracking comment. Will Simon Murray be this season's Albert Kidd? I hope so, mate. I hope so. As long as we get it across the line, man.
Yeah,
that would be fantastic.
I mean, I remember the 1986 game very well, and you actually chatted to Murdo about it as well. You know, I would prefer it not to go to the last day of the season. In fact, the last kind of 45 minutes of the season. Just purely, I'm a lot older than I was back then, so I don't know that my blood pressure, my stress levels could take that. But yeah, absolutely. You know, as we've both agreed, that the main priority is 3 points. Yeah, and that's it.
And I know Dan's in the chat there. Dan, we're talking about the 1986 season here. People were talking about it. It went down to the last game of the season.
Yep.
Give it a little read. The Love Street season, we call it, because Celtic went away to Love Street. I won't waste it for you. I won't tell you what the outcome was.
No.
But it was decent.
You can still get the clips are on YouTube. If you want to watch, it's either Scott Sport or Sports Scene. Show the commentary, but in the background you'll hear the fans. You know, bearing in mind this was in the days before people had, you know, mobile phones and stuff like that. So, you know, people were standing a wee plastic radio with a wee head, not even an earbud because it was on a wire then. You know, sitting, and like somebody in the crowd would actually get a signal from the old Radio Clyde on 261, and you just hear the crowd in the background, and you know, that's what Murdo said he says you could just tell by this roar from the crowd, you know, something's happened here. But as you say, no spoilers, you know. Do have a go on YouTube and have a watch of that.
The 86 season Love Street, I think I even have. There we go. Just to hand, I actually have a nice wee Love Street top there as well. There we go. Signed by the wonderful Peter Grant.
Signed by Peter Grant.
So I'm going to get Murdo to sign that one as well. Like I said, I was talking to Murdo about that game, and he had said when they went in at half time, I can't mind who it was. Somebody had told him it was 1-0, but then we're walking back out, and the manager was like, "Nah, it's still nothing each. Just go out and keep doing what you're doing, keep winning and whatever." He says, but then we finally knew that the result was incoming when the second goal was scored, and we heard the crowd make the roar. He says that was the point when we knew we had done it, and we actually got it across the line. And to have that feeling back then, I think it makes that season that little bit sweeter.
Yeah.
And I understand why some people have the nostalgia and want it again.
Yeah.
I don't know if my heart can take it. I think I'm on the same lines as you there, Stevie. I would like it to be
We're not the age we were in 1986. What age were you in 1986, Paddy?
I was 2, mate. Yeah, I was 2 years old. Yeah. So I can't remember it, funnily enough. But,
I was 18, Paddy. Oh, jeez.
You were 18, so you can remember it fine and well. That to you would have been your kind of main season, because when I think back to, obviously, I was kind of coming in towards 2002, 2003 season, so the kind of Seville era.
So you're one of these entitled people that I've only ever known. You're talking to a guy who remembers supporting Celtic in the old board times. You know, that's like, just feel free to put the Hovis music on any time here, and I'll take you back to those old days. But surprisingly, even with the old board, it's amazing how the same things keep coming back round and back round. You know, back then, all the fans were upset about the board's disconnect with the fans, how Celtic Park was really run down, and how our scouting and recruitment was absolutely crap. And hey, 40 years later on, and nothing's changed.
Exactly, mate. And that's it. Listen, I don't care how we get it across the line, as long as we do get it across the line. And it's pivotal. Some big games on today, like we said. Hearts have Dundee. The baddies have got Aberdeen. Stand free, everybody. Once again, thank you so much for all your kind support. And as always, Stevie boy, take it away.
Hail, hail, guys. And
take it easy, everybody.